So good morning, class 8 children. Today we'll continue revision of chapter number 12. So few of the questions are there. All type of questions are there carrying 2 marks, 3 marks and reasoning also. So first question is cause of friction. I hope you all know what is the cause of friction. Why friction comes into play. Yes, Anshika.
And friction is caused by the irregularities on the two surfaces in contact. Irregularities on the two surfaces lock into one another, interlocking, causing friction.
Yes, so the main purpose of main cause of friction is that irregularities between the surfaces. The surfaces are irregular and this is the main reason for the friction to occur. The irregularities is there in the surfaces and two surfaces get interlocked. Okay. Kindly switch on your cameras, children. Next is what is rolling friction?
Ma'am, can I tell?
Yes, tell.
Ma'am, can I tell? Rolling friction is the friction exerted when an object rolls over another surface.
Okay, simply the rolling friction occurs when one object rolls over the other. That type of a friction is known as a rolling friction. What is sliding friction? Yes, Tanya. Ananya Prasad. Okay. Ananya Prasad, tell.
The friction between two bodies are in sliding contact.
Okay. When two objects are in sliding contact, that type of a friction is known as a sliding friction. Good. What do you mean by the term drag? Neha Jain.
Ma'am, the frictional force exerted by fluids is called drag, and the frictional force of an object in a fluid depends on its speed with respect to the fluid.
Very good. So term drag means the friction exerted by the fluids. Fluids means liquids and gases. And on which factor does the drag depend? It depends upon the speed of the particular object. Okay. Number 5, write the factors on which the friction depends. Friction किस पे depend करता है? That friction will be less or friction will be more. On what factors it depends? General question is there. Friction ज़्यादा होगी, कम होगी. So on which factors it depends? Arav Sehgal? Yes, Arav Sehgal, you know the answer? Arav Sehgal? Riteksha? Raghav? Shraddha? Kindly give the answer. Yes, Ananya?
Ma'am, roughness of surface.
Yes, it depends upon the what type of surface it is. Either the surface is smoother or either the surface is rough. If the surface will be rough, then what will be the what happened to the friction? Will it be more or will it be less?
More.
Friction
Ma'am,
will
more.
be, yes, more friction. And if the surface is smoother, then there will be a less friction. So on what factors it depends? The friction depends upon the factors that the type of object, what type of object it is. Okay. And how many irregularities are there when the two objects comes into play. Next, what is the direction of frictional force? I think you know it. Direction of friction force is always, tell Ananya, opposite direction.
Opposite.
बेटा,
Opposite.
आपको ये लिखना है. You also have to write down this opposite. किसके opposite? Opposite to the direction of motion. ठीक है? It is in the opposite direction of direction, opposite direction to the motion of an object. Okay? जिस डायरेक्शन में आपका मोशन है ऑब्जेक्ट का, उससे ऑपोजिट डायरेक्शन में फ्रिक्शन एक्ट करती है. नेक्स्ट इज number 7. Explain how the frictional force is used to stop a moving bicycle. Okay, you know, moving bicycle stop after some time. So how frictional force is used? Because as you have told that frictional force always act in the opposite direction and the motion of the object is in the, suppose cycle is moving right to left, and frictional force is acting from left to right. So frictional force try to stop the moving object. It slow down the speed of the bicycle. Okay. So frictional force always act in the opposite direction. And what is the, in this case, it tries to stop the moving object. So that's why after some time, the moving bicycle stop. And the irregularities, there are the irregularities between the road and between the tires of the vehicle, tires of the bicycle. So it tries to stop as it acts in the opposite direction. Number 8, why does a ball bearing along the ground stop after some time? Yes, Tanya.
Ma'am, because after some time in between the ball and the surface, the friction is produced. Irregularities between ball and surface.
Okay, the same is there. Bicycle stops, ball stops, because after some time, the ball, when it is moving on the surface, the irregularities, friction is generated. And friction generated always try to stop the motion of an object. Okay, चाहे फिर वो ball हो, चाहे वो आपका bicycle हो, whatever is moving, it tries to stop it. Okay, switch on your camera, Tanya. Write 3 ways of reducing friction. How we can reduce friction? 3 ways of doing it. Yes, Ananya.
Friction can be reduced by making the surface smoother by polishing and applying lubricants and using rolling friction on the surface.
Okay.
Using a force.
Anybody else is there? If want to add few points, he or she can add few points in it. So 3 ways of reducing friction, very easy ways are there. Next, question number 10. Give reason for the following. Sparks are produced when a pair of scissors is sharpened against a grinding wheel. So you must have seen when we give the scissors, pair of scissors for sharpening, ठीक है, या knife for sharpening, or any of the object, any of the tools for sharpening, you must have seen that sparks are produced. Have you seen the sparks produced? So what is the reason that sparks are produced? क्या reason है कि spark produce होता है? Because you have seen there is a rubbing between the two surfaces. That person moves the wheel. वो wheel को move करता जाता है, and that there is a contact between the pair of scissors and the wheel. आपने देखा है कभी ऐसा? Have you seen that how the this pair of scissors or knife or cutting tools are sharpened? So what is the main purpose of it? क्या main purpose है? Why the spark is produced? Because during that heat energy is produced. Okay, and that heat energy produced is in the form of the sparks. Okay, next. A piece of chalk wear out as it is used on a blackboard. Yes, Tanya.
And because the piece of chalk rub in blackboard, so it wear out between the friction.
Yes, due to the आपने देखा होगा when we are using chalk, after using some time it wears out. Wear out मतलब chalk को कम हो जाता है, खत्म हो जाता है. Because due to the surface, कौन से two surfaces are in contact? Chalk and the blackboard is in contact. So the piece of chalk wear out due to the friction. Wet surfaces are more slippery. Aryan Singh, Arav Sehgal, Prateksha. Wet surfaces, आपने देखा wet surfaces are more slippery. Why it is so? If the water is on the floor, simply you can see that it becomes more slippery. Banana peel also we get slip from the banana peel. What is the reason? Slippery क्यों हो जाता है? Yes, Prateksha. Arav Sehgal, kindly give the answer, children, if you are in the class. Yash and Raghav, Naman Rana, Aryan, Varun, Aditya.
Ma'am, they act as a lubricant to the surface.
They act as a lubricant. And what happens to the lubricant? Friction is more or less?
Less.
Friction is less. That's why wet surfaces are more slippery and the chances of to skid is more. But many of the questions are there जिनका same answer होगा, like the vehicles on a rainy day, or it gets slip. आपने देखा होगा skid हो जाते हैं vehicles when the water is there on the road. So what is the reason behind it? This is the reason. तो इन सब questions का एक ही reason है that the wet surfaces are more slippery. Why they are more slippery? Because the friction is less, the grip is less. That's why the chances of slipping is more. Powder is applied to a carom board. Yes, Ananya?
Powder is applied to the carom board because it reduces the friction so that the stickers can move easily on the board.
Yes, and you all do it while playing the carom board. You want that the surface or the board on which you are playing, that should be a smoother one. So वो smoother कैसे हो सकता है? It can be smoother by sprinkling powder on the carom board. A man walking on a street slips on a banana skin. Just we had discussed. Bananas peel, say how we get skid, why we get skid. इस केस में भी क्या होता है? The friction is
Friction.
friction
Less.
is
Friction
less.
is reduced.
Friction is less and grip is less to the road, and that's why we slip. Oil is applied to the moving part of the machines. You know, whenever your machine, any of the machine, even the machines which we are, जरूरी नहीं है कि factories में जो machines हैं हम उसी की बात कर रहे हैं. No, simple machines we use at our home also, and whenever we keep on applying the oil. घर में किसी के swing machine होगी, they used to apply oil. Why? Why it is so?
To reduce the friction.
Ma'am,
To reduce friction.
Because
between
of reduced
machines.
friction, you know, moving part of the vehicle, moving part of the machines, they wear out. ठीक है,
Ma'am, we
धीरे
also
धीरे.
use lubricants and
Yes, lubricant.
ball bearing.
Ball bearing. अगर आपके घर में fan है, fan is also a machine. If fan is making a sound, तब भी आप क्या करते हैं? आप उसको you just oil it. Cycle. If it becomes hard, tough to move, you just apply the lubricants. Okay, so to make it more comfortable and to reduce friction. How the fluid friction on a body can be minimized? Fluid friction, you know, the friction in air and water. उसको कैसे minimize किया जा सकता है? Anyone? Yes, Sanshika Agarwal.
Minimize मतलब कम ना.
Obviously, minimize means less. Yes, Sanshika.
Ma'am, by giving suitable shapes to the
Yes,
object
very,
moving
very,
in the
very important. The objects which move in the fluids, they are made of streamlined shape. You must have seen in the air. If we talk about in the air, what we say? Aeroplane, ship, boat. They
aeroplane.
are made in such a way that they reduce the friction. And even the animals which are living in air and water. कौन से animals? Birds, fishes.
Some fish.
Yes. How they are made? The shape of the body is in such a way that streamlined body. Have you read about streamlined body? Can you tell what is that streamlined body is? Streamlined body. Narrow at the ends and broader in the middle. So many times I had told, आगे और पीछे से narrow होती है और middle से कैसी होती है? Broader. Do you know the shape of fish? Fish की shape भी कैसे होती है? Streamlined shape. Aeroplane, birds, all are streamlined shape. Narrow at the ends and broader in the middle. Okay. Next. Explain why yes, 12. Why a hovercraft travels much faster than a steamer pushing through water? So, do you know about any of the reason for it? Hovercraft travels more faster than a steamer pushing through water. Steamer, you know, that moves in the water. What's the reason? Yes, Tanya?
Ma'am, because of the shape, it is fluid friction, so the hovercraft travels so fast.
Okay, because of the shape. So you know the shape of it. That is, what is its shape?
And streamline shape.
Streamlined shape. Number 13. Friction produces heat. Write one advantage and one disadvantage of this property. Friction, you know, that
Ma'am,
is
can I
the...
tell?
Yes. Okay, tell.
Ma'am, the advantage it helps to striking a matchstick, and because between the matchstick it produce heat, and in between the machine it produce heat, so machine cannot work. It is a disadvantage.
Okay, one advantage she is saying that heat is produced with the when take an example of matchstick. When you strike the matchstick on the outer surface, the heat is produced. That is useful for us. We are using it. And the one disadvantage is there, when the machines they keep on working, they produces the heat. And even at our home, we are using the electrical appliances, they produces the heat. So that is totally the wastage. This is the disadvantage. Okay. Mention 3 ways in which the friction between two surfaces can be increased. Rest of the children can give the answer. So many times I called upon you. Not you are switching on the cameras. Raghav, Yash, Arav Sehgal, Aryan, Naman, Aditya Shah. You need to give the answer, children. Why that happens? 3 ways in which the friction can be increased. You know that.
Making the surface rough by
When the surface is rough.
But आपको 3 ways you need to tell. Okay, one is okay. How can be rough? How can we make the surface rough? Give the examples. Soles of the shoes. They are tires of the vehicles. They are treaded. We need that there should be a proper grip. Whenever there is a snowfall, we just put a sand in front of our house. Why it is so? So that there should be a grip. We can move. So we want the surface to make rough. We make the surface rough. I think I'm clear. In the same way, another question can also be there. 3 ways in which the friction between two surfaces can be decreased. So ये भी आप बता सकते हैं. Decrease or increase का आपको बताना है. Next, define the following. Fluid friction, streamlined body. Fluid friction, you know, the friction exerted by the liquid and gases. Streamlined body, just we had explained. Next, come on, 16 question. Name 2 factors on which the magnitude of frictional force depend. Magnitude किस किस पे depend करता है frictional force का? Kindly tell.
Ma'am, 16.
Okay. Name 2 factors on which the magnitude of frictional force depend. Name 2 factors.
Ma'am, the
Ma'am,
magnitude of frictional force depends on weight of body and shape of body.
Weight of the body and shape of the body. Okay. Next, explain why it is convenient to pull the luggage fitted with rollers. Ananya Kahara.
Ma'am, rolling reduces the friction. It is always too easier the roll than the slide a body over another. That is the reason it is convenient to pull the luggage fitted with the rollers.
So because the rolling friction is convenient and it is easier. So it is very much convenient to roll the luggage as compared to the slide. Why do kabaddi players rub their hands with dry soil?
Ma'am, can I tell?
Ma'am, can I?
One
Can
has
I?
to. Arav
Can
Sehgal,
I?
you won't be giving the answer?
Can I tell?
Yes, Aryan, tell.
Ma'am.
Wait. Aryan, think.
Ma'am, kabaddi players rub their hand with soil for better grip over their opponents.
For the better grip. Okay. Next. Why does a matchstick light when we strike it on the rough surface? Yes, Neha.
Can I tell?
Pratiksha. Yes, Pratiksha, tell.
When a matchstick is rubbed on a rough surface, the surface produces friction, and we know friction produces heat. Therefore, the matchstick lightens up.
So similarly, but same this question 19 is taken as advantage of heat produced. Just we discussed advantage of heat produced and other disadvantage. Other is a disadvantage. Okay. Explain why it is easier to drag a mat on a floor when nobody is sitting it on it, but much more difficult to drag same mat when the person sitting on it. आप खेलते होगे कभी कभी, ठीक है ना, कि you are dragging a mat. It's easier to drag a mat when nobody is sitting on it, and when some person is sitting on it, it's very difficult for it. So why that it's so? Why it is difficult? Just as he has told, the weight increases. When the person is sitting on the mat, that will become difficult. Yes, Aryan, just you have given the answer for it.
Ma'am, when we drag the mat when nobody is sitting on it, so the friction is very less. But when someone is sitting on the mat, then the friction is more. So so that we
It
are not
becomes difficult.
able
Yes.
to drag the mat.
Yes, because friction increases, and as you told just now, that friction depends upon the weight also. Okay. So friction increases when the weight is there on the mat, and it is easier for the person to drag the mat before on a floor when nobody is sitting on it. Okay. So this was the assignment of chapter number 12. I hope you have understood all the concept of this chapter. For tomorrow, kindly revise chapter number 13. Sound, which is very, very important, and that same chapter is going to be continued in your next class.